Hi, everyone. It's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Pete Stetson. We're very excited that Pete accepted our invitation to come and tell us about what is happening in AI governance at Sloan Kettering and in oncology more generally in any health system. We're all figuring this out as we go, and exchanging ideas is the goal of this talk. Pete is Chief Health Informatics Officer at Sloan Kettering. His team manages clinical application services, digital health programs, clinical and nursing informatics, consumer and population health informatics, and clinical and translational research informatics. He leads the AI governance program at MSK, and he chairs the NCC and EHR Oncology Advisory Group. Um, we on a personal point, it's a pleasure to see Pete. Pete was a member of biomedical informatics, where he's done fantastic work mentoring students and doing really innovative work in Columbia Doctors and in informatics. So welcome, Pete. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Noemi, for the opportunity to journey with you guys a little bit together, and for the opportunity to speak today. And there will be ample time at the end to talk shop, and swap some stories about successes and failures, hopefully. This is a talk on responsible AI work that's been about 2 years in evolution at MSK, 1 year in actual real world practice, plus about 4 months. So I'm going to share a little bit of how we tackle this, and hopefully it resonates. This is my Pete Stetson is totally not cool slide, where I have no conflicts to report because I'm not cool like that. And on we go. So we think of AI at MSK as two sides of a balancing act. One, to help practitioners be successful in the development, and implementation and promotion of AI, and at the same time doing so responsibly. So on the one hand, we're working hard to speed getting these tools into people's hands, to the bedside, to help researchers with AI processes, to aid in adoption. We're working hard to preserve scientific freedom, and I saw similar language in your policy document as we have in ours. In the opening, it says this is to help advance the field, and we want to accelerate our partnerships with vendors and commercialize models. And that's on the promoting side of that two-sided balancing act. But we also believe that we have a responsibility to do this safely, to enable best evidence with decision support, to help our users know how to use AI in practice. Peter MB has a concept called algorithmal vigilance, which borrows from the pharmacovigilance world. So every one of our algorithms is monitored like a drug, basically. Ethics, risk and compliance, data governance, IRB synchrony, and vendor management. These are the activities that the centralized AI resources help with to do this all responsibly. So bottom line up front, and then I'm going to go into process, but these are sort of MSK by the numbers on AI at the moment. Upper left-hand corner is a breakdown of 83 models that we currently have in our registry. We have a centralized AI model registry, and you can see in decreasing order how many are clinical, ClinOps, back office ops, research, and data and analytics for AI developers. And then the bottom left is a cut of which ones of those are in production versus which ones are in works in progress or going straight to commercialization, not to be used at MSK, which is rare. So 37, 46. On the right, you see sort of the end of 2024 update that we've given to our board. We've helped develop 26 homegrown models. MSK has a bunch of nomograms, like clinical decision support nomograms, on the mskcc.org website. They had suffered from some loss of sponsorship, change in evidence. So we sunsetted two of those. We've commercialized an AI model. We did a head-to-head of a bridge and DAX, picked a bridge. I'll talk about that more in a minute. Back office, MSK, Microsoft Copilot pilot. We have two sandboxes to get to LLMs, one for PHI, one for non-PHI. And increasingly, our strategy is get core platforms in. We went live with Epic in February. Right before that, in October of last year, we went on Visage as our new PACS, which we chose in part because it does have plugins for AI models in radiology. A lot of the FDA-approved vendors know how to plug into Visage, so that's partly why we chose it. But the concept being like, let's get on platforms that support AI rather than trying to launch and productionize all of them alone. Also, this is where the workflow happens. These are the primary workflow engines for the users. So take the AI to where the users are. We have a manuscript submitted on what I'm about to share with you at a high level. And then you may have seen we just announced two partnerships, one with Amazon for advancement of our AI programs with a special focus on AI-enabled data curation and a bridge for ambient. So that's sort of where we are. And now let me tell you how we got there. We got there through a multidisciplinary collaboration. And I had a chance to look, Noemi, at your governance or like the structure of the community and clinical and centralized resources. And in a way, we have constructed similarly. The AI governance committee is multidisciplinary by design, nursing, clinicians, researchers, quality, patient safety, ethics, legal. And these guys and some AI practitioners themselves coming from some of the big AI development shops across MSK. And on the right are all the people that contributed or helped or ongoing support, including the health informatics team that directly supports this. We have two committees that we work really tightly with, the Research Data Governance Committee under Mike Berger, and we have three IRB committees that roll up under Roy and Eileen. And those two are like sister committees in lockstep as much as possible with the AI Governance Committee. And I'll explain why that's the case as we go through. So our journey took us back to 23, actually October 2022. I think that's around when GPT was launched. And the board said, hey, digital people at MSK, what are you doing about AI? And we said, well, good news, we do have an AI ML central team, but we agree we need to get some of our act together. So we did two things in parallel. We were preparing for Epic, and we brought our AI governance up to speed a little bit. And it's been a journey. I would say we've gotten above tree line on the hike as of late 24. And you can see some of the activities, the main activities of each of these phases. First, we inventoried in 23. We set up a task force to build a strategy. We got our sandboxes going. We experimented. And then we launched the AI Governance Committee early 2024. And the focus of my talk today will be on a little bit of the activities and outputs from that. So in phase one, we did an inventory. This is mid to late 23, and bucketed our stuff into the rows you see of research, clinical, and operations. And it turns out we were pretty busy already without governance, with 87 projects going in AI. And you can see the leading categories on the right. And strategy, comp-onc, med physics. These are actually, we consider them mini centers of excellence, have been doing AI at MSK for 10, 20 years if you're a lumper with the term AI. So this was where we were. And then in the literature, MSK shows up pretty well. Number 2 in Nature Index on AI after Sinai. This, I think, is 23 numbers, 2023. So we may have shifted a little bit. And number 1 in the oncology space. This is based on AI-related citations in the Nature Index. And just to give you a sense of one of the drivers of that, one of the key contributors in that area is our medical physics department. Medical physics at MSK is a department, a full department that supports radiation oncology treatment planning. So their focus in AI has been on process automation, treatment planning, AI, tumor segmentation off of images to create a rational radiation treatment plan. And to date, they've used their AI tools to treat over 10,000 patients, with the lead being the chair, Joe Deasy, and our lead faculty member on this area, Harini Viraghavan, who is a world leader in tumor segmentation work. So we had a strong foundation. We also had done some work on the other end of the pipeline, which is adoption by clinicians. And this is a tool on the right that's actually available. We published this. The instrument is validated by clinicians, for clinicians in the adoption of AI. And it's available in the citation you see here as a supplement, free to use. You can go for it if you like. But the idea was, even if you have a perfect model, it may not get adopted by clinicians if it doesn't fit into their workflow, or it doesn't provide useful information, or is not trustworthy. So that's why we built this. And we thought we could use this in our post-monitoring phase, and also possibly before going live, so that we would know if we should spend $5 to $10 million on something based on maybe some pilot data. It would be good to know what the users actually think of it before you spend a ton of money. So that got us to end of 23. We formed a task force. And so Columbia may have already done this in different ways, and I'd love to hear about it as we go through. But we got together some senior leadership across the organization, including the Sloan Kettering Institute, which is a basic science group that's doing a lot of work in AI around biology, biological systems. Donna Pear used to be at Columbia, is down there doing systems biology at MSK. We have a bunch of comp onc folks. So we included them, and we came up with recommendations. So the key recommendations to advance and accelerate were: don't build stuff you can buy, focus on strategically differentiating AI. And therefore, number two, partner where possible to accelerate. Number three, make sure we do this ethically. Number four, enable LLM access. And we identified gaps around funding for high performance compute, for example, which you see on the right. We're still struggling with the compute constraint, the storage constraint. The data is still messy. By going live with Epic on February 1st, we introduced noise in the data, as you can imagine. So that's a challenge. And talent is hard to, on a tight budget, is hard to obtain and retain. So these were the things that came out of the task force. And we did also create a overall program structure. So this is akin to some of the stuff I saw from you guys and how you structure your program. But we think of it as three programmatic areas: research, clinical, and operations. And we think there are some models that straddle. So for example, patient experience might span clinical and operations. If you say that billing is kind of more of a operations activity, for example. So we acknowledge that we have a stack of data, compute, models, skills, and then adoption training as a set of capabilities that are needed to support these programs. On the right, we created a partnership model, tier 1, 2, 3, and a collaboration model. And collaborating with Columbia and other organizations would fall into that model. And on the left, we have governance all the way up and down the stack. That's what the AI Governance Committee oversees. And currently, we have 4 work groups. A work group that focuses on the actual homegrown model support, regulatory, policy, and quality and safety. And we spin up work groups as needed. Um, so today I'm focusing a little bit, we're going to drill next into the governance, and then I'm going to spend a little time talking about the data constraint and how we're actually thinking AI could help us out of that hole. So it's AI for AI, basically. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's dig into step three here, phase three, governance, registry, intake, prioritization, and partnerships. Talk a little bit about that. So 2 years ago at Scottsdale Institute, and a big shout out for that org, super helpful in thinking through how hospitals can and should manage AI. At that time, there was a big debate about should we create is AI just a tool like any other tool, and we shouldn't create any new governance structure whatsoever? Treat it like, ah, you know, uh, cloud storage, just do it. Or should you create a whole new governance structure separate from your already existing digital governance structure? We decided to go a middle path, which is what we call embedded. So we believe that there are characteristics of AI that are unique, that merit review and proactive governance, but we did not want to duplicate governance structures, so we embedded it. So on the bottom right, you see the AI governance committee in the purple. It it takes direction from and then gives feedback and advice to already existing digital advisory councils on up to the digital executive committee, which oversees our large digital portfolio investments. The goals are to promote responsible AI, to develop, implement, take direction up and down, give direction, guide relevant work groups. The activities focus around lifecycle management, regulatory compliance, and risk management. And I mentioned the two sister committees, the IRB and the Research Data Governance Committee, and just say a word or two about those. So one, I'm sure I saw it in your documentation also that you work closely with the IRB or will work closely with the IRB. But in like every calls where the IRB is asking like this investigator wants to use this AI tool. Is this a permitted AI tool at MSK? Can we do it? Is this even a good question? The PI wants to bring this to the bedside as a predictive biomarker and stick it into Epic. Is that even feasible? There's just like an enormous number of questions that are coming from the investigator side. So we act as consultants currently to the IRB. We don't have enough staffing to staff the IRB yet with an AI rep, but that day may come in the not too distant future. The Research Data Governance Committee focuses on making sure that adequate attribution is given to faculty who have developed high quality research data assets that then may be reused to build an AI model. So if you imagine they built it for research project one, and now somebody else that's not involved in that project wants to use that data to build an AI model, we run into some interesting publication attribution, data understanding, and even sometimes like enforcement of embargo periods for not scooping each other. And so that committee oversees that kind of stuff, and we have been very careful to place the AI governance work in support of their rules of the road, so that the faculty are treated well. So the other thing that the AI governance committee did was go to the market in the literature. We have learned an enormous amount from Eric Poon and Nicoletta Economou at Duke. So this is a oncology a variant on the ABCDS model from Duke, which we really like, but we made some modifications to it that we think make sense for us. And let me just step you through this real quick. So the purple path is the path that preserves scientific freedom for researchers investigating new models or deployment of new AI applications. So the little gray thing, arrows with the SR in them, that's scientific review. We don't impose a AI governance committee review on those models. until such time as at gate 3, they want to bring it into a clinical or operational context. And at that point, we ask the researchers to work with us to register the model, and then we bring it into our process to get it into, production readiness for silent evaluation, followed by deployment in real systems. We haven't really figured out if any role is pertinent or how to do it for the AI governance committee. If the investigator does not plan to use it at MSK, but wants to take it straight to commercialization, from a research product straight to commercialization. So that's why I have question marks on that one. We're going to get to this question later in 2025. We have commercialized out of the blue pathway into commercialization. So that does work. The enterprise support and the centers of excellence work that we support comes in through the blue path. This is where the models are built at MSK by somebody at MSK or possibly in partnership. But increasingly, and this is what differentiates our model from the ABCDS model, is the partnership and third-party vendor in orange pathway. We're assuming but verifying that they have done a good G1 step and G2 step, and then we kind of bring them in at that point. And if we're going to deploy them clinically, though, we still review them the same we would for homegrown or research developed models. And then on the right, you see gate 5 is a bunch of work to do ML ops at scale. And I would say we are still learning there and supporting that. That's an area of big focus for us, is how to tighten up the processes there. The decision gates at a high level, the outputs of each, or the exit criteria from each gate are, to get out of gate 1, you have to have a model proposal. To get out of gate 2, you got to have a registered model. To get out of gate 3, you got to have a full nutrition card. We call it a model information sheet, like a vaccine information sheet, that evoking that kind of information. Model monitoring plan after silent evaluation, but before full production. And then the AIGC works with the sponsors at 6 or 12 months post go live to develop a report on its performance. It is possible to get a fast path through this, which is 2 weeks approval, if that's a yes on all the questions you see on the right. Aligned to strategy, good sponsor, small-ish, has resources to build, plugs into core platforms, meets the gate criteria, and the users are ready for launch. This one's tripped us up. This one's important. So like a sponsor might say, hey, I have the most beautiful model. This model, in Eric Poon's language, has graduated from high school, went to college, actually got a master's degree. It is now ready to get a job. But then if no one wants to hire that graduate, it gets stuck right there. So we always like to make sure there's a good user community that's actually raising their hand to take this up. They call it launch readiness. It took us a while, but we figured out a pre-assessment process. This is where the informatics teams are super important. They do idea into idea proposal into model proposal through intake. We use ServiceNow to handle the demand tickets. And then we assign an informatics person to meet with the sponsor. And the prioritization step asks the 12 questions you see on the right. And that gets it into G1. And again, the exit criteria from gate 1, decision gate 1, is a well-formed model proposal. And we've been doing this now for, I want to say, just about 12 months at this point. That's how we got we had to retro some of the 83 models that I mentioned at the top of the discussion, but any new requests come in this way, as long as users know to get to it. We have a formal risk assessment process, which drives how closely we look at each model, because we're already outstripped by the demand. So we modified this from a Berkeley publication, again, to be onc tailored a little bit. And it's a balancing act between risk factors on the left and mitigating factors on the right. So you might have a medium risk because it's a diagnostic model, like a radiology mammogram model. but the vendor might give really good workflow for human in the loop and might offer really good analytics off of their tools and thus pick up some mitigating factors. And that was true for the Transpara model for breast mammo screening that I'm going to talk a little bit about as a case study. So overall, the score was low, even though the risk factors were medium, the mitigating factors were pretty solid. So we use this general approach. If you guys want the details on this, I have it in the appendix, and also it'll be in our publication if we get it published. After that step, we ask the sponsors and the leads coming from the business, not from the digital teams, to step through a set of questions that help us fill out the model registration. And the registry then holds these information as metadata about each model. And on the right, you see there are some general questions about expected benefits. There's some technical questions. We have 3 questions that we did like a little mini factor analysis with our legal team to say what are the 3 minimum questions we would need to ask to uncover that this should be governed as software as a medical device by FDA's definition. So we add those as screeners when a model comes in. And then you see down at the bottom there, we also check for what we call AIAEs, AI-induced adverse events, evocative of the significant adverse event from clinical trials. We ask for those to be pre-specified as much as the sponsor and lead can predict that, because that then goes to our quality and safety group, and they are monitored for in our risk system, which I will talk a little bit in a minute. We created a 1MSK. This is our intranet. You can get to the registry. The idea of this is, hey, before you start building a new model, maybe now you want to check and see if there's a model already in there that does the thing that you said you want to do. So this is a way for us to dedupe and also catch people into the registration process so that we get the ServiceNow tickets. This is relatively new. We've been soft launching this in the last 3 months. So we haven't blasted this yet across MSK. Wanted to make sure we could handle the volume. So we sort of did a soft launch. And then this is the obligatory, like, what does it take to do this? So the tech stack that we use in the central enterprise AI/ML team is on the bottom right. There are 11 AI/ML engineers in the centralized team, and at any given time, we can spike as high as 10 contingent consultants. That varies from quarter to quarter. And then it takes about 10 informaticists, but when you like basically AI has become everybody's job at MSK. So it's like parts of people, but when you add it up, it's about 1.5 FTEs, including my own contribution to this. That we have a cross dependency on the high performance compute services, which is run out of our enterprise technology group. And our chief data and analytics officer oversees our warehouse. We now call it MODE, which I think stands for multimodal observational data for the enterprise or something like that. So this is and on the top right, you'll see that we're sort of evolving towards a hub and spoke model. So these are the centralized resources that are in the blue center enterprise circle. And then there are practitioners across MSK that have some of their own resourcing. But few of them have thought through fully like how to productionize a model into Epic, or production a model into the PACS, or productionize a model into the ERP, or productionize a model into RedCap for, so that's where we find ourselves doing quite a bit of work. Okay, so to make this real, let's look quickly at an actual agenda from our October 24 meeting, which I think is instructive of how this process actually works. So we always break it into new business, and we talked about ambient and about herbs app. We had a special topic where at 6 months we went back and revised our charter document our charters and our policies are dynamic living documents. We had follow-ups on a non-permissible. Ended up deciding that one of the cloud-based AI tools was not appropriate for use for tumor boards, so we had to shut that down, and that was a complex conversation at this meeting. We had 3 AI projects that had gone live. We talked about Epic AI models, and then we set up the next couple months worth of topics on the agenda for parking lot. And then things that we haven't gotten to are true parking lot down at the bottom. So this is like a standard agenda slide for our AI GC meetings. And then we use that lifecycle model that I showed to show where the business is coming in. So the new business that we covered was an ambient thing and the about herbs thing, and we show where they're coming in. Ambient, we ended up doing a DAX versus a bridge pilot. We decided in this meeting to expand a bridge pilot to a larger number of users in this meeting. And on that note, this was the sort of takeaway slide from that meeting was the results of a bridge versus DAX pilot. And actually, it was a bit of a no-brainer based on the data that we showed in the meeting to move forward with a bridge. But the question that actually came up in this meeting was fascinating and spot on to our ethical guiding principles of transparency, fairness, equity, beneficence, a few others. And the question was, hey, in the pilots, we did two-sided consent. Are we going to do two-sided consent when we go big? That was the question. And by that, I mean, maybe you guys know what I mean, but there's the consenting of the patient and the consent of the care team. Those are the two consent for applicable law in New York State as it pertains to recordings. So our legal thinks that ambient is a form of recording, and so the applicable law is the recording law. And what's fascinating, I didn't know, but in the course of this conversation, we learned that New York is a one-sided consent state. But we chose, since we did patient consent and care team consent and documented both for the pilots, consistent with our ethics for transparency, we decided to behave as though it's a two-sided consent state for MSK. So that was a decision that was taken in the AIGC. That makes it harder for us, but we think it's fairer for the patients. One of the reasons why we did that is because we had an actor who came to MSK and we offered the ambient and they said, no way, I would never use that. I'm a member of SAG. You can't record my voice. I'm worried about losing my identity. And we didn't want to argue with that. So that sort of backtracks to the conversation that we had. Actually, it took about 20 minutes of the hour was on this topic. But I think that's something that's really important is like in the category of responsible use of AI. At that time, we had a list of 17 models. I'm sort of overlaying that with an update here, May 2025, with the models that we went live with when we went live in Epic on February. So this meeting was in October. We planned these, and then these are the current state. We dropped image reading priority. The ones in orange actually did not make it live because we ran out of time to configure them, or there was some other question mark. But the ones in green and blue went live. I'd be interested maybe in the discussion section to know how you guys are tackling Epic AI models. And interestingly, some of them are in the foundation. Some of them are just systems functions, we call them. They're like, toggle on, toggle off. But some of them are pretty complicated, like sepsis V2, deterioration index, inpatient risk of falls. Anyway, this is our current state. Because we're so late to go live on Epic, we're probably one of a smaller number to simultaneously go live with Epic and AI models turned on, which is a learning journey for us. Okay, so that gets us to number 4, and I'm getting there. We're going to go quick through the rest of this. I'm going to focus on quality, AI-enabled curation, and as I mentioned, like platform-based AI. And I'm going to give you one example of bringing a PACS and enabled model through the process. This will be quick, and then we'll get to next steps and questions. Okay, so another awesome thing at Scottsdale Institute was Tom Lee, who's a physician up at Partners, but also is like the CMO or president of Press Ganey, which focuses on patient experience. He asked the question at Scottsdale Institute annual meeting, hey, what are we gonna, this AI stuff is amazing, but what are we gonna do when an adverse event happens as a result of AI? How do we communicate with the board and the faculty and the staff that this is likely to happen and we have a graceful way to handle it and it won't, we shouldn't turn the whole AI center off and the whole AI program off. How will we do that gracefully? So one of the things that we thought about was, all right, well, let's handle it. And let's use it instead of creating a separate governance structure for this. What if we tap into the voluntary reporting activities that the quality and safety division already manage? So that's what we did. We are about to turn this flag on in our risk system. It's all built. We just need to announce it. But the idea would be under that algorithm of vigilance concept from Peter Emby at Vanderbilt. This is one of the ways that we do it. And any of the models that are in there for clinical and ops, it's basically if you see something, say something in we call our system risk. I think you guys still use RL Solutions or RL Datix. That's what we use. So there's a flag in there to say, I'm raising my hand, this event happened. I think it might have been related to technology or AI. And then from there, quality and safety pick it up and manage it like any other adverse event. That way we didn't create a new superstructure for quality. We were using the existing structure for quality and safety. Next item I just wanted to give a quick example on is, okay, so we went with Visage for our PACS. There are like 40 FDA approved radiology models that they advertise that they can stick onto Visage. And I think we have 3 of them live now, but at the time, this was the Transpera model that you guys may have seen published in the Masai trial, the RCT out of I want to say Denmark, where like the whole nation did screening by 2 human radiologists versus 1 human radiologist in the AI. And AI was actually detected more cancers earlier and with non-inferior performance to 2 radiologists. So that model was requested by radiology to get in, and we didn't want to delay it. They asked for a fast pass review. So this is how it worked. Radiology put in the intake request. It came in through the buy orange path, gate 3. It was registered with the questions that I showed you. And then we did the risk assessment, and the score where 3 is high, 0 is low, and the mitigating factor of 1 is high and good, and 0 is low and bad. They got, pretty high on mitigating factors, somewhat low on risk factors. So the overall risk score was low. So we've advanced it to step 4, and they hit a yes on every one of the express path criteria. So we were then obligated in the AIGC to do a 2-week turnaround express pass review, basically expedited like IRB. And they are now live in, I think they're live in a pilot. So they did a silent mode, and then they're live in pilot now, and they're soon going to be asking to move it to full production in our gate 5. So hopefully that's a good example of the process in motion. And then lastly, if you don't attend to the basics for AI and clean up your data, you're just going to get garbage out faster with AI. So we have been thinking a little bit about how we can clean up our data. That took the form of the creation of a standard ontology data model we call the core clinical data elements, and these are cancer-specific data elements that borrow from M code, SNOMED. It's like the best of the best, and then some new ones which are really hard to parse, like treatment response and disease progression, toxicity, where there are some gaps we created, net new concepts. We call that CCDE. And we can talk with you guys about that. I've talked with Karthik about this a couple times as a potential helping capability for the Cancer Center at Columbia. And then we have this genomically characterized population with our 568 gene MSK impact test. Currently, when I put these slides together, about 100,000 records from 80,000 patients. We've curated 30,000 of those with highly trained curators, where the data is stored in REDCap in a tool we call MSK Extract, using the CCDE data concepts. So they're structured data augmentation. We want to go faster. But the cost, even though we've highly negotiated the rate, we use Vasta Omega. They're in India. It's an offshore. They have access to our records and REDCap in a safe environment, and they curate straight into REDCap projects using this standard capability. However, it's still super expensive, and we have 9 diseases, and so there a number of us at MSK are colleagues in the Clinical Data Science Initiative team, and us, and then you saw the Amazon announcement maybe from MSK under AI-enabled curation pilots tier 1. That's Amazon. That's us working with Amazon to speed up AI-enabled curations, and we call it filling the cube. Features on one axis, number of features, more patients, more time points. We call that filling the cube. And we're actually working hard on this in collaboration with our Cancer Data Science Initiative folks. But what that would get us is then also a DID'd like Mayo platform capability. We use Snowflake for that. We're working on DIDing a bunch of data for proving grounds. We can build computable patient journeys. This work is underway. You're seeing a real screenshot of patients that are of a patient who is de-identified, but who has now a treatment trajectory and responded, and then failed. But those are now computable journeys because we have the data structured, for example. And then we're supporting this data getting over to our folks who Saurabh Shah's team is cited there for tumor evolution work that he's doing to create new biomarkers for treatment response and tumor escape. And our job is to get that curated data over there faster, which is why we need AI to help us with that. So that's a curation topic. So in summary, getting there, I think this is it. The governance function has we feel like it's a competent process. We have a lot to learn still. We put 2 things through the express path. We actually slowed down, stopped, or modified 5 that you see listed here. We think we're being wiser about the AI that gets into production. We're compliant. We're promoting core platform use, Epic, Visage first, as opposed to toys that are hard to support. And then the main findings are here. I'm not going to go through this for time. There's a bunch of open questions. The one thing I would say on the left for the main findings is if you look at the ask for help on models in 23 at year end, and you look at the end of the year 24, that was a 63% increase. And we did that without increasing headcount, but that is not sustainable. So we were a little worried about the volume. As such, there are some of these models that are just now, call them system features. I don't know if we have the time or the bandwidth to review all of those. And if they're super low risk, maybe we can exempt them from review. And that finding the balance on that is one of the main questions for us in 2025. Like, how can we not review every single thing? So I see Todd has his hand up. That's the end. Basically, you can see where we're going next on the right there. Um, we're about to launch an LLM portal when we launch our policy, sort of a carrot and a stick announcement, uh, probably in another month. And that's it. So with that, I'll take questions. Todd, you're up first.
I have a nuts and bolts question, as I usually do. Um, the data curation that you're outsourcing and the discrete data that is in the EHR and the other sources, I get the impression that you have a lot more discrete data in patient characterization of disease than we currently are working with regards to treatment stage, molecular characterization. Um, has there been an evolution in that as you guys have been building the database? And is there really good compliance with documentation and staging?
You're giving us too much credit. It's still a mess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Uh, we did make quite a bit of progress in our prior EHR, all scripts. We took the Prism model. So the Prism model is like, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's like as TNM is to staging, Prism is to treatment response, is the way to think of it. And PRSSMM stands for pathology, radiology, other imaging, signs, symptoms, and MD assessment, and what's the last one? Markers, tumor markers, like, CEA, CA125. So each of those are a structured set, but those are really not well structured in the EHR. So Todd, we have on pathology, I drove the using CAP compliance with ACOS, COC requirements. We drove synoptic adoption of path reports, so that got a little better since you left MSK. We added the MD assessment for a while in our EHR, so the docs had to say,
Like a structured
they
answer.
had to give a structured answer of responding, partial, uh, you know, remission, indeterminate. Like they had to give
Yeah. And
non,
it's what Epic is trying to do in Cosmos.
yeah. But we lost that actually when we went with Epic. So we actually don't have that MD assessment currently yet. We're only, 3 months into our Epic launch. So, and when we did the deployment, we decided not to do structured onc history. That was a decision taken by the physician advisory council. So it's full
Yeah,
text, just like it was in all scripts. So
we
it's no better.
we don't have good compliance with the structured
Yeah.
onc history. We are working on, structured staging, and we don't have Beaker, but in December we'll have synoptic path reports with Beaker,
Yeah.
and we're
We do
doing
have the genomic classifications as structured data, and we are live on Beaker. So when we went live with Beaker with integration to our molecular. So that's
you were able to
structured.
connect. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds like
We did immersions to get the empath tool connected to Beaker. And if you guys want to talk to our folks about that, I can make the connections.
yeah, it sounds like you guys have had some of the same struggles and a few more wins, but discrete data is still the bane of the existence.
But yeah, yeah. Uh, that's why I called it out as it was identified before we really did the governance work as a constraint. I would say it's still a constraint. The human capital necessary to clean the data is very expensive. Uh, so Amazon is helping us focus specifically on the NASR data elements to see if we could automate cancer registry workflows. Because if we can do that, we think we can do um, other fields because that's very prescribed. And I also know
Yeah,
exactly how much I spend on cancer registrars.
we are
So
we are thinking similar in that we pay a lot of people 18 months later to do cancer staging to report, and we really should be putting those resources up front into
Yeah.
the chart.
Yep.
And so can you build an AI model that helps you populate the staging, then have clinical verification and incorporate the registry resources up front as opposed to just so you can get the bare minimum to report on.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
We're at a six. We keep ourselves no later than 6 months behind for the analytic cases, but that's 30,000 cases a year for us in the
Yeah.
registry.
Yeah.
It's huge.
We should talk.
Yeah. Other questions? Are there folks that have other questions? So Todd, great to see you.
I have a couple questions. I can't figure out where the hand raise button is, but thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. I was wondering, two questions. One is for your internally deployed models, what does your technology stack look like? Are you deploying on AWS and then integrating with Epic? Or are you leveraging Epic's Nebula or cognitive computing platform?
Yeah, I had a slide in there that sort of took the vendor names off. So we have a couple ways we tackle this. Let's see. So there's development resources for the build of the model, and we use some IBM tools for that. For the compute, for compute and storage, we are, especially now that we're in a strategic partnership with AWS, we're Amazon first for compute and storage. I would say we're actually multi-cloud, but the most of the work on this is set up in Amazon at the moment. For the purposes of access to foundational models, we've created a sandbox for access to LLMs and foundational image models. And I think we have 15 different large language models in there. And we have a PHI safe one that I think is Amazon containerized. And then we have a non-PHI one where you can put public but not MSK sensitive data into and mess around with the large language models. For ML ops, we are for the registry, we did a homegrown solution. If you guys know of a good vendor that actually has a robust modern model registration tool, we would love to know about it. We have scoured the world for this. We can't find one yet. We're talking to other organizations, including Duke.
Happy to build one with you.
Yeah. Well, we built one. But we think of it as tech debt that we would like to throw away and advance, but there's nothing really great yet. We're talking to a bunch of different vendors. I even talked to the people at CVS Aetna. They've got maybe 1,000 models, and they were like, yeah, there's nothing good. We had to build a homegrown. So that's
the registry data worries me on the accuracy.
Yeah. And then for ML ops, we have a bunch of different tools, some IBM products. We are also looking for good tools there. I just saw some low code, no code ML ops, open source almost kind of stuff that you can use for ML ops. But you have to have the telemetry of the models coming into that. And we don't have that fully set up yet. So full disclosure, our ML ops tooling is either Cogito for the Epic models or IBM tools that I think are legacy and maybe not where we'll end up in the future for the homegrown stuff that's not Epic. The Epic Cogito toolkit for monitoring is evolving. I talked to Seth Hain at the Scottsdale Institute meeting, and he said they definitely have stuff in their roadmap to make that easier, better, stronger. Right now, the Cogito tools seem good, but not amazing. But I can't really say because most of our models just went live, and some of them are in silent mode. The rubber's going to hit the road in about 2 to 3 months when we really start kicking the tires in Cogito to see how those models are running. My understanding is when you do an Epic model, you have front end config and you have Cogito config to get a model live. And we're thinking of that as a mandatory dashboard or two that would be shown to the informatics lead and the sponsor for each model. So that's a work in progress for us. Hopefully that answers your tech stack. If you want to talk with our AI ML team lead, they will be able to answer in much more detail than I can.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share some vendors that I know are growing in that
Yeah.
monitoring and surveillance space with
Yeah.
your tech lead as well. The other quick question, I want to leave an opportunity for other people to ask questions, is when you have something that qualifies as software as a medical device, and it's not FDA approved, are you pursuing the FDA pathway, or are you just running it internally and saying I'm not using it for commercial purposes?
Yes, good question. Sorry, I had to answer the door there. So for those that qualify as software as a medical device under the FDA, by and large, we don't have a lot of those. We were worried we had a lot, and we did a retrospective on our models that were in play. And actually, because they're all human in the loop and with various controls, or they're the research home, only developed by us, not planned for commercialization, we were exempt, and we were in very, very high. Like, we didn't have any models that we had to kick out because they were non-compliant with software as a medical device requirements, which was good. Going forward, we're screening for it, and we haven't had an instance where we had to kick it out because of a positive screen. So you're a little bit ahead of us on that question. But I think what we would be doing is, so what we've done is the legal team at MSK under general counsel has gone to school. So they've actually gone to conferences. They're getting upskilled on this regulatory requirement before we have this event, so that they're ready to help guide us through this process. And I think by and large, we'll be able to use the exemption. But the concern that we have is that we still need to document all of the screener questions now, because the rules are likely to change in the not too distant future. And therefore, we want to know, okay, what did they tell us when we went live? Because now we got to go back and that's why the registry is so important, and to have the screener questions on SAMD in the registry so we can go backwards, like when the FDA decides to change, which I know they're talking about on these exemptions. Hopefully that answers your, yeah.
Yeah, I think having the model registry for all potential changes in regulation, whether that's,
Yeah.
HHS non-discrimination or FDA or
Yeah.
anything, will be incredibly valuable because it's a journey I think we're all
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. So I'm respectful of everybody else's time. If you have any other questions, stetsonp@mskcc.org. Noemi knows how to find me. Thank you. Great
Thank you
questions.
so much,
And
Pete.
yeah,
We have many other questions, so maybe we'll bring you back. But thank you very much for such transparency, first of all, and so much impressive work already ahead. So congrats.
thank you kindly. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.